What's up? What's up? I told you I'm in your face. Can't you see me looking at you? This ain't no joke. This is for real people. We're here today. What's up with Pastor Greg? And today I have a wonderful guest, someone who I had great admiration for, someone who I was privileged to witness their transformation. She was an intern and now she's a full-fledged therapist. And this is my friend and my sister, Sara Rice. Hi, Sara.
Hello, hello.
Girl one, for the record, I miss you. You know, and I thank you in our history for even helping me. This is when I became confident of your skills because see, Pastor Greg don't let everybody talk to him and help him. I'm letting you know that. But anyway, one thing that Sara has for her, well, she's very approachable and she's very relatable. And so I want to tell her story. I want to tell her, Sara, tell the people who you are and also what you do.
All right, so I work at Koinonia Counseling Center. I am so privileged, I gotta give her a shout out here, to have my best friend and my colleague. We work together, Maren Hahn. I get to be spoiled in that regards. So we both specialize in trauma. And then I have another specialization. I specialize in substance use disorders as well. So I use a lot of trauma work specifically with substance use disorders.
Wow. Now, you guys are in business together, right?
Yes.
You started that.
Yes.
And before we came on, Sara and I was talking back and forth about how we can choose. We have the power of choice, whether you want to experience to thrive. How about that? To thrive. Yeah. And then Koinonia is a product of their thriving. They didn't, instead of waiting for somebody to do something for them, they said they're going to go out there and they're going to get it. And they got it. Now, you remember I had Maren on here a couple weeks ago, if I can recall, you know, because I am a grateful recovering person and some things I don't do very well, and that's remember dates and times. But hallelujah. Anyway, Maren was here, and we did talk about Sara, but now Sara is here, and not only have they started their business and they're innovative and creative and ingenious, but also she's a mother during this mandatory stay at home. Sara,
four kids.
Hold on.
4, yeah.
I gotta wipe it off here. Okay, I can't tell your story for you, girl, but how you hanging in there?
Well, like I said, I have 4 kids. So I have a sophomore in high school. Well, I guess you can almost consider they're moving on already, but sophomore in high school, I have a 7th grader, and then I had a 1st grader and a preschooler. So the older 2, I'm doing pretty good with-ish. The younger 2 are definitely, they cling to mom, and they are a lot more needy, for lack of a better terminology. So I'm trying to be mom, I'm trying to be wife, I'm trying to be school teacher and make sure that my kids don't get left behind, which is a really big fear of mine. Among dealing with my kids, you know, their emotional health. I have one in particular who needs a little bit more attention than the other. So it's just, and juggling work, because I do still work. Of course I do counseling, and I do it either via phone or via the video platform. So it's been something else, for lack of better terminology. And I'm good, I'm coping. I have a good partnership in my husband, even though he works 3rd shift. So I'm kind of I'm kind of here doing my thing with the kids while he's sleeping, and then he goes to work and he does his thing. So it's definitely a juggling act for sure.
Oh, there was an adjustment period, especially when you heard the word that, you know, okay, we got this coronavirus. There's you know, when you first heard it, it's out, and then it turned into a pandemic. And then next thing here, as a resident of Michigan, we got the stay-at-home order, which completely thrust a lot of families in close proximity with each other on a routine basis, which they weren't used to. I had a guest on here when I first started that gave me the perspective of its impact on a single parent. But you just described some of the challenges upon a married parent, with the whole family, and that there has to be some adjustments that have to be made. Now, because you are a trauma specialist, wasn't this change traumatic?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would definitely say so. I mean, one of the biggest things that we were kind of getting used to is my youngest is definitely very attached to mom. So I had just really started getting into work, and she was really getting used to that, and having mom be gone, that this is kind of I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand, why I can't see my teacher.
Wow.
I'm getting mom all the time. So now when we do come to getting into kindergarten, I am a little concerned about how this is going to affect her ability to separate from me without a lot of anxiety. Because, I mean, we're talking from March till, the school years, it's done. I mean, we'll face that fact. We're not going back. So all this time from March until they go back in August, it's going to be an adjustment when I get back out into the workforce. And then I have one individual, my teenage daughter, who is definitely dealing with a lot of, we were dealing with depression before, and some other psychiatric diagnosis. And so it's this really big kick and chunk of time is just, it's really thrown them for a loop, although I'm grateful for the connections that we have as a family.
Yeah, because it sounds to me that a word that I use oftentimes in relapse prevention support groups when we were meeting, and that is you pivoted, because that's again by choice, that you can choose to do something different, to learn something different. As we mentioned before, and I don't want to overuse, but those phrases seem to be applicable at this time: to be innovative,
Yeah.
to be creative, to be ingenious. Now, in this particular situation, it was either to do or virtually to die, to stop moving forward. And you've been making those adjustments, but those adjustments, especially being a mother, those adjustments can be difficult, can't they?
Yeah. Especially when I think in terms of coping and using the words coping, dealing with, getting used to, adjusting. I have a fortunate ability that I do have a toolbox that I can pull from, that I can use when I'm getting either frustrated or depressed or worried about where my kids are going to be when it comes back to going to school. But, dealing with all those thoughts of either parenting, whether it's, I'm a mother, let's face it, whether I'm with somebody or whether I'm single, mothers, especially when you talk about, we'll focus on mothers, but when you talk about thinking with substances involved and kind of having that consideration of coping and that overwhelming feeling of, am I adequately taking care of my children? Am I providing them with the emotional needs that they need to have taken care of? Am I making sure that educationally wise that they're going to thrive? Am I giving them enough attention? Lots of times that's kind of where you'll start falling into that cycle of my kids, which is great. And then we kind of start getting stressed. We start getting depressed. And then we start figuring out like, well, how am I going to deal with this? Sometimes if I don't have enough energy, am I going to relapse into using substances in order to be able to have that energy that they need? Or say it's the opposite and I need something to help me get to sleep because all I keep thinking about are all these things dealing with my kids. I mean, that's kind of a lot of things that I've definitely noticed with parents and parenting now and individuals that I work with. It's really thinking, and it kind of centers around that question of, am I enough? Am I enough for my kids? So, and I think that, and I'm not fighting and struggling with a substance disorder. You add that on top of it, and you know,
And
coping
what you
with.
said is so significant for those who are struggling with substance disorders, for those who are in recovery, regardless of the stage of recovery. This has a dynamic impact because just many of us got involved in these aberrant behaviors that actually subsequently ended up into addiction. We could get in, but we couldn't get out because we were desperately trying to escape something that we didn't like. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why they call it, mood altering substances as well as behaviors, because there's something we want to escape from that is uncomfortable. And so what I'm hearing you say today is that there's got to be a balance, because though as a mother, and not only mother, but fathers as well, but especially mothers, that you're so mindful and conscious of the children, you've got to balance that with some time for your own self, because there goes that, and you didn't say the word, but there goes that stinking thinking, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
I'm not enough. And that is a major contributor to those feelings, okay, of inadequacy. I'm flawed, I'm defective, okay? So I need to escape this somehow. Like you said, and you described so well, this leads me right to considering substances as a way out.
Yep. Yeah, and another thing that I will definitely touch on, that I want to make sure to touch on, is I also work with individuals, mothers primarily, but fathers also, who have had their children removed due to substance use. So this time has definitely thrown a wrench into things, whether it's drug testing on a regular basis to maintain the ability to see kids. The ability to actually physically see kids has been kind of thrown up into the air. The ability to comply with, say, positive judgment orders, and hey, how are we going to work with kids get to have more time with parent now, and the whole laws of the state. And like I said, it still boils down to, like you said, a lot of, am I going to be enough? Or can I use because I'm not being regularly drug tested? And dealing with all those feelings, even if your kids aren't directly in your care,
right?
Wondering like, okay, now I have somebody, I have an external entity also questioning if I am enough for my own kids. So not only do you have the internal, you have the external, and you have the, well, how am I going to cope? Or maybe I can get away with this because I'm not being regularly drug tested.
Wow.
Yes. So you have to start thinking, as you were saying, talking about innovating. This is a time where you can either innovate and seek into other options that can help you grow and get you over those times when you're craving, or you can die. And it's not die maybe in the actual sense of, it's either do or die. It's, okay, so you think you can use now because you're not being regularly drug tested, right. But what's going to happen when that time comes back up? So it's taking a step back, and looking at what you can do to be innovative, as right. For lack of better terminology.
Well, the irrationality of powerlessness enters, and is that especially what you described, because Sarah, honestly, I was unconscious of it while knowing that it does exist, that there are parents who had been seeking, were on a path of being reconciled with their children, who had been separated from them because of substance use, court orders, or what have you, and that their efforts to reconciliation through this pandemic has now put a wrench in all of their plans. And those are contributing, because especially, I'm a grateful recovering person, addict thinking is that I've been picked out to be picked on. So no matter what I do, darn if I do, darn if I don't. So I might as well return back to what I'm familiar with, even though, again, I said this is the irrationality of powerlessness. Even though the reason why I'm in this crazy situation it's because of that very same thinking and those behaviors that resulted from it. So it's like
Oh yeah.
the cycle of doom.
Yeah, and I think even as parents who don't have substance use issues, but
Yes.
especially those that have substance use issues and their kids have been removed, you'll get that often like, well, I did everything they asked me to do. I've been doing everything I know a good parent's supposed to be doing, and things are still turning out like, for lack of better words, they're going to hell.
Right.
And it's working through that yeah, we're in a fallen world. I would love that if you were, going from A, B, C, D flawlessly and everything were to work out great for you. And it's almost like, I'm sorry, but we live in a fallen world that we can do everything perfectly, and our sin nature of others, it's
Yes.
going to creep into our life. And
Yes.
it's like, there's so many times where even I have to remind myself, like stuff goes bad. What are you gonna do?
Right.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I mean, we all get tempted, to want to escape, but since you've been there, done that, and if you have matured at all or advanced at all in your recovery or your efforts toward wellness, you don't want to put at risk all the gains that you have made. So as you said earlier, and we both agree on about some innovation has to come in place. And many of us are being forced into innovation. We can either embrace it right now, because if it wasn't for innovation, Sarah and I wouldn't be on here talking with you today. Okay.
Yeah.
We found a way. In her practice, she found a way. We're going to still stay connected to the people. And it was not just led by capitalism. I need to make some money, because what Sarah does, she does what I do from the heart. We want to reach out to help others who we can relate to and who can relate to us who are suffering. Because I'm glad, Sarah, that you mentioned that it's not only those with substance issues, but it's just those in normal life. If we fail to realize in the fallen world that we are, and I want to stick a pin and come back to that, that the options that we have out here, that even the most well-intended individual can become self-destructive. And you said it earlier, it's the thinkings and the emotions without a viable, healthy outlet of alternatives. And especially now, because we once enjoyed, I believe, the advantage of support groups. Okay. I know you would agree that people are people are relational. We need contact with one another.
Oh yeah.
And oftentimes from those that don't share our name, and don't look like us. I won't say it's a variety of supports that because we just want to be around where it reminds me of that the theme song to Cheers. I want to go where everybody knows my name.
Yeah.
We're not saying to go to no bar now. We never said that. I mean,
No. Yeah.
Well, the sentiment is we're relational, and we want to go where we are unconditionally loved and accepted, and that can be in the church. I'm gonna stick a pin in that, but I'm gonna turn it back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people, especially those, even if you look at yourself as being introverted, I'm actually more of an introverted person. I feel like God has created us to be social beings. And the relationships that we have, oh gosh, I even look at that, and in terms of trauma and substance use, it's God has created us to be this social person. That's why he created, Adam and Eve. That's why there's a system of families. That's why there's a system of community. So even in terms of, well, what does it matter the relationship I had with my mom, or what does it matter how I see my siblings? It's, taking those into context is like, oh, well, relations, you got betrayal, you got people letting you down, you got people that you can lean on, and that's great. And let's make sure that you can lean on and you're growing and you're not staying static because it's comfortable. It's just, it's like Pandora's box when you're going to get to, what do relationships mean? What does what does it matter what support group I go to? What does it matter what I'm getting out of the support group? It's God has created us to be, not just by ourselves.
And that's a wonderful observation, because even us being on here through Zoom, that Zoom does exist. There's other platforms that do exist, so that you can be in connection, in contact with someone, even where you are, so that you don't become that you just don't become, I'm looking for the word, just like a hub of stinking thinking, an
Mm-hmm.
incubator of stinking
Mm-hmm.
thinking. There's a way
Oh,
to
yeah.
get out. But you said something, that we have a fallen world. We agree to that.
Yeah.
And, we're believers, we're followers of Christ. But I just don't subscribe to, and I've never known this about you, subscribing to the religious thing.
Yeah.
We're subscribers to the relationship thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Would you speak to that for a moment to give us some clarity?
So when I talk about, and it's interesting that Maren and I definitely have a faith-based Christian background. And when I talk about Christian, I don't talk about, going to church. I love going to church. I miss going to church. I miss the community of that as well. But I don't subscribe to all what society would be like, oh, you're religious. No, I subscribe, as you said, to the relationship that I have with Jesus Christ. That is my foundation. That I wish I could definitely, I wish it would beam out of me to my clients, because even though we do work as, we have the Christian background, and then I have another place that I practice with as well that is a faith-based organization. But my thing is, it's about the relationship that I have, and the understanding that we have together in that relationship, as to how I should behave, as to how I should handle stress, as to how I should, be a mother. And that doesn't mean that in our relationship, I'm not looking at God sometimes like, yeah, I know I did that wrong. I'm sorry. I should have, yep, I forgot the relationship that we had. Okay, got it. That doesn't mean that my human nature doesn't get in the way with, as you talked about, the stinking thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I put roadblocks in between myself and God. And it's like, well, I made the path for us. It's right here. I don't know why you're sitting wallowing in wondering about these relationships, or how you look, or how you think that, you should be as a mother. It's open. It's supposed to be open. I don't know why you put that boulder there,
Wow.
So that is my foundation for when we talk about faith, when we talk about Christianity. It is that relationship. And hey, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert from way back. Maren knows I don't like being on the phone. I'm not a phone caller. I'm not a person who goes out and parties and everything like that. But relationships are still vital, and they're still important.
I'm glad you said that, because there's all types of relationships. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because we are relational, that's why I even came to know you, even in your self-admitted introvert. But she is a cool person to get to know, though, for real, though. That being said, the God, our faith is demonstrated, again, through relationship, not punitive, because even when you were describing that if we fall short of this, and we didn't do it maybe the way we preferred to do it, or the way we knew to do it, it's that we didn't receive from God this rejection or this punishment or these threats or intimidation, but more of an embrace. And that's something I find that is present in not only your life, but also in your practice. It's about sharing the faith that you have with your clients. It's not about insisting that they get a faith or they go to a church. And then you made it user friendly for our audience here, is that, look, these are just some healthy alternatives and some options for you. It doesn't mean that you got to either go buy the biggest crucifix you can hang around your neck, or the parallel Bible with Old Testament Hebrew and New Testament Greek or what have you. It's about some healthy options to have a thriving relationship, first with yourself,
Yep.
then with others.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's really taking that time to sit, and whether it's, we talk about, of course, with AA, NA, and the 12 steps and a higher power, and it, getting to understand that what is that relationship between you and that higher power. And I don't mean, I mean think about it.
Yeah.
And it's even similar as, one of the things that I kind of use with my clients that you had spoken about a while ago is that relationship with substances. What is it about that relationship that you like? I have people tell me that it's the feel of the needle, and it's that relationship and understanding. It's really taking time to understand
Right.
what is it about that relationship, and maybe even writing it down or trying to verbalize yourself out loud while you're sitting there like, well, it doesn't make sense, but I kind of like the gleam of the sunshine as it flickers off the needle. Like,
Yeah.
anything relationship wise that pours into our mind, being open and honest about that, and open and honest about your relationship with, for me, it's God. For what is your higher power? Is it something that just makes you feel better? It does, and is it working?
Yeah. Now, you see what she just said? Now, for some of y'all in there, I'm finna put my face right up there. Can you see me? I'm right here. Okay. I want you to get what she really just said. This is the explanation, finally, for that, especially crack addicts and alcoholics. It's calling me. It's the relationship part. It's something you get out of the relationship that's actually calling you. That's why it would seem like there's an audible voice. Now, I'm not going to go to the deep stuff because that's not my area. That's Sarah's area, because that does happen somewhere a lot. But there is, it's like when I was using the alcohol, when I was using the crack cocaine, the relationship, Sarah, that I have formed with it was like if there was something that was going to either deter or interrupt or interfere with that relationship, because I got so much from it, that's why I could say that it had a voice, or it had a feeling.
Yeah.
It even had a smell, or it had, I could get really descriptive, if you ask me, oh, what do you like about the crack? And I'm gonna be honest with you. My freedom came from what you just described. You have to explore and discover what it is. One, admit you got a relationship with it. Two, that relationship communicates or translates into a certain good thing for you. And then detail what that good thing is before you can be free from its grip. And I had to actually do that in my relationship. That's why you really touched me today with the Lord, because I had to honestly make a confession. As 1 John 1:9 said, if you confess, he's faithful and just to forgive. Because I had relapses in my life. It's because, I kept on praying, oh God, take this away from me. But then God reminded me I don't smoke crack. But, he said, I gave you the power to put it down, and it was only when I made that confession about the details of the relationship, what I looked for about it. Yeah, it was like where I went and bought it, what time of day it was, how much money I spent, the setting of my usage, the swirl of the smoke. All of those details are significant to be free from its grip. So what you just said, girl, please, that was the most vital thing, because that is the whole of the relationship. Wanted to admit we got a relationship with it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that boils down to, especially as we kind of do even a full circle to being a parent when we're kind of locked down in the house, where, especially with people who don't have access to wheels or can't walk, in a good place to get out with the kids, or maybe you don't have the kids. It's understanding that relationship with, what is it going to give me? Am I getting out of it what I want now? Am I going to get something out of it long term?
Yeah. And that's with exploring. I can't tell you how valuable it is in having you here. And as well as I told you that, we have been longtime admirers and supporters of all of your efforts, because I think, to me, you actually are a frontline worker. That's why we actually haven't stopped. We had to become innovative, and that's why we're on here online now, because we actually are frontline workers. Mental health. There's going to be a lot of people once we get this all clear, if there's going to even be a thing called all clear. And you're talking about trauma. This is a trauma right now, if there's ever been a trauma. So, one, I want you to give, if you are able to, freely give details where our guests can be able to access some of the help that you and your outfit has to offer.
Well, so Marin and I didn't start this, like you had said earlier. We didn't start our counseling practice because we want to be rich and famous and make lots of money off of it and make ourselves feel good. We really focus on providing adequate mental health services. And that includes, if you go to our website, we have resources. Like I'm kind of out in the community and making relationships with people. So, even if you come to us and you say, well, I don't have a huge mental health issue, which everybody can kind of work on their mental health, I'm not going to lie. We kind of focus on what kind of maybe resources that we can help you with. I firmly believe that you can't say, hey, why don't you work on your mental health, but you're hungry, you don't know where clothes are coming from, you don't know you're being abused. So I kind of focus, and Marin and I focus on the whole person, and not just, say you have depression. We don't just focus on the depression. Don't just focus on the substance use disorder that you may have. So we have a list of resources, if we're talking even just materialistic resources. So by all means, feel free to check out our website at kccpllc.com. You may reach out to us for mental health. We have connections if we're talking about needing something more in depth, and it's just a whole plethora of, whether it's eating disorders, that's another form of addiction that that doesn't get near as much attention. Substance use disorders. Oh gosh, there's
Well, it sounds like you guys have a holistic approach. In other words, is that you come to us, we're going to get you some help one way or another, whether directly or indirectly. Would you again give us your website address a little bit slower? Because you're used to saying it. We're not used to hearing it.
It is www.kccpllc.com. So it's just Koinonia Counseling Center. If you want to just search it in Google, and it'll pull it up. And if we don't know where to go, then we take time to ask other people so we can get you the best help that we possibly can. Because this pandemic is, it's anxiety inducing for sure.
kccpllc.com.
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Quick learner. She's a good teacher. The one thing, I went to her, and actually I went to her, let me let you know, this is the confession, Sarah. I went to Sarah to test her, because I know she was like learning and getting her skills and whatnot, and getting her education and whatnot. And, I've been to a variety of different clinicians, not because Pastor Greg crazy, but I am. Anyway, I wanted to test her and to see, is she on her game, right? And I really did have a serious issue going on. In fact, her and I are similar in regard that, there's part of me that's an introvert, because I told you, I shared with you on Testimonial Tuesday, my testimony of being an overcomer, because I will not be a survivor of anything. I'm not giving the perpetrators that much credit. I'm giving my credit to the Lord. I'm an overcomer of sexual abuse as a child and teenager, and physical abuse. And so I really had a need. And because some things that I've still struggled with, as I admitted on our segment at Testimonial Tuesday, some of the scenes still haunt me from those abuses, even though I have the tools. We're not going to make you believe that by having connection with a therapist or having some tools in your toolbox, you're not going to still have to struggle with this. That said, I came to her, and one thing I know that Sara keeps her confidences. Whatever you come to her with, she keeps. But one thing that I have to credit Sara, I credit you for, you listened.
Okay.
You see, and that's important, people. She listened to me. She didn't judge me. She didn't interrupt me. She listened to me. And then she gave me some healthy options after listening to me. That's why I have great confidence. I give a great big endorsement today from Community Recovery International. And you know, we've been around for 21 years. This is my girl. Y'all need to go check her out. Check Marin out. These are some people that's for real. They ain't playing with you, and you need to stop playing anyway, because I don't know what's wrong with you. Anyway, so we gotta have some fun.
Oh, I love it.
You know what I'm saying? But circling back, she has, and basically it's kind of hard to summarize, but we've hit on some key points. One thing I heard her talk about today was relationship. One, there's all kinds of relationship. The most valuable relationship you have with yourself. Oftentimes you might need the help from the God of our understanding to even help you to realize how valuable you are as an individual. And then there's some other tools. If you could give us a quick refresh, Sara, and then we will we'll go on.
So some definite tools to pause, stop what you're doing, take a moment, think, be honest with yourself, and just physically just breathe. And
Wow.
it sounds so corny, but
Wow.
people don't often notice that they're not even breathing correctly. So breathe. We're going to get through this pandemic. We don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, but just breathe and it'll work out. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it'll work out.
Thank you so much for being here. You have shared with, as we call it here on WASSUP, you didn't spit some serious fire. And we go say spitting fire, we're talking about you didn't share some truth. That's just our vernacular saying she shared truth. She spit some fire. That's why y'all need to actually turn the fans on and the air conditioning, because what she has given you has been a wealth of information, and it ain't cost you nothing, even though I got the bill in the mail. No, anyway, no, seriously, she's a lovely person. She's my sister, again, my friend. I want to give a shout out to Koinonia Counseling Center. We gave you their information. Reach out. You are not alone. You are not alone. And she said something key, which I'm going to even do right now, was get me a breath, because sometimes just the pause of a breath gives you a fresh outlook. Sara, thank you for being on WASSUP today. Blessings to you and your family. And we're going to have you back if you be willing to come, because you know how us introverts can be sometimes. It's like, I ain't even here, you know. But then I'm back again. So we had some fun, but we also learn. I thank God for you being the frontline worker that you are, being the central worker that you are, being the mom that you are, being the woman that you are, being the friend that you are.
Thank you.
Blessings to you. Take care.
You too.